Kia ora koutou, ko Jodie, toku ingoa. I'm a student at the University of Edinburgh. I'm based here in New Zealand and I'm studying international animal welfare, ethics and law. And I'm delighted to be here this morning to talk to you about my dissertation research, which is ensuring dog owners in Aotearoa, New Zealand use reward-based training methods with their dogs. So before I begin, I'd just like to give a quick thanks to my advisors and supervisors through Edinburgh. A big thanks to Companion Animals New Zealand for your support on this project, for distributing the survey, and to your subscribers who took part. And thanks to U4 who provided a travel grant allowing me to come and present today. So expectations of dogs have changed over time. Dogs are increasingly expected to live according to our human lifestyles and behave according to our social rules. When the expectations of dogs are unrealistic and they behave in ways that are considered problematic, this can lead to a breakdown in the human-animal bond and lead to relinquishment to shelters or even to euthanasia. Owners are responsible for training their dogs to meet these expectations, and the methods that they use can influence their dog's success. Aversive-based methods use pain, fear, and discomfort to change a dog's behaviour, and it can actually lead to an increase in incidence of problem behaviours. Whereas reward-based methods, on the other hand, increase positive emotions, promote cognition, and can actually improve the human-animal bond. So why then, if we know all this, why do some owners still use aversive methods? And how can we ensure that the interventions that we use to change owner behaviour are effective? So we could base our interventions on human behaviour change science. Specifically, we could use the behaviour change wheel, which guides intervention design through an evidence-based and systematic process to ensure effectiveness. So I'll just take a look at this green circle in the middle. That's called the COMBI model, and this recognises that for any behaviour to occur, the person must have the capability, the opportunity, and the motivation to do it. So capability can be physical or psychological, and it includes things like the person's skills and knowledge. Opportunity can be social or physical, and it includes things in the external environment that affect the behaviour. So this could be things like social norms, environmental factors such as practicalities. And motivation is the internal factors within the person that affects their ability to do their behaviour. So this could be their perceptions, their beliefs, their attitudes. It could also be their emotional responses as well. So I wanted to know, how does the capability, opportunity and motivation of dog guardians influence their behaviour in terms of the methods and the techniques that they use when training their dog? So 1,000 eligible dog owners registered with the New Zealand Companion Animal Register, or NZCAR, who'd consented to be contacted to take part in research, were invited to take part in an online survey. This online survey was also shared on Companion Animals New Zealand social media. So the survey was about 10 minutes long. It was closed-ended, multiple choice questions, and it was ordered like in the COMBI model. So the first questions were about behaviour, and it asked guardians about their behaviour. How often do they do X when training their dog? So how often do they do things like use reward-based methods? How often do they tell their dog off? How often do they verbal praise? Sorts of questions like that. Capability questions asked about knowledge, using true-false questions related to myths, facts and myths about dog training and behaviour. It also investigated skill by asking about their perceived success using different training methods as well. Opportunity questions, so again, that's the things in the external environment that influences the behaviour. So this asked about social norms, such as perceptions of other dog owners around them, as well as practical barriers. So this was things, some of which were presented by the dog itself. So was the dog food motivated? Was it toy motivated? Do they even think that their dog even needs training? Motivation questions, again, those internal factors influencing the behaviour. So owners were asked about their attitudes towards their dog. Do they think that their dog is a member of their family or whānau? do they think it's okay to inflict pain and fear on their dog if it's to teach their dog that their behaviour is undesired? And it also asked about emotional reactions. How do they feel when they reward their dog? How do they feel when they punish their dog? And do they have fun when they train their dog? So 269 people took part, which is fantastic. Of course, surveys can have some limitations. So a lot of the respondents did identify as New Zealand European women. So it's something we should take into account and is not unsurprising for an online survey. So once we got these responses, the first thing I needed to do was define their behaviour. I really naively thought I'd be able to categorise everyone into two groups, those that use aversive methods, those that use reward-based methods, and even saying it out loud, it sounds ridiculous. Of course, it wasn't that clear-cut, and people tended to use a little bit of each to a varying degree. So I used this fancy statistical test called a principal component analysis, which gave every guardian who took part a score for the use of reward-based methods and use of aversive methods. And then I did more statistical tests, which I won't bore you with the details of today, but essentially they were to understand how the capability, opportunity, and motivation could predict that owner behaviour. And the analysis showed that the factor that had the strongest effect on the owner's behaviour was actually their skill at using different methods. So essentially, the methods that owners were confident in applying, they'd had success with previously, and they were the ones that they were most likely to use. And on the other side, on the flip side to that, if they weren't confident or they weren't skilled at using it, they didn't use it. So for example, an owner may have tried to use reward-based methods with their dog, but perhaps due to their lacking skills, they're not quite delivering the reward at the right time and they're not getting the desired effect. This is especially interesting because we know that dog trainers are a source of skill for owners. So in New Zealand, the training and behaviour field is not regulated, so this means that anyone can call themselves a dog trainer. This could mean that there is a risk that these uncertified and unregulated trainers could be teaching owners skills at applying aversive methods, but they may not be teaching them adequate skills to apply reward-based methods that owners can use at home. So there is one way we could think about tackling this. It's a method called enablement, so we could enable owners to access trainers who use reward-based methods, such as through an accreditation scheme, like the Companion Animals New Zealand accreditation scheme, which I won't go into detail here because I think there is more about this coming up next. Then the next factor which was important was the physical opportunity. So these are the practical aspects that influenced the owner's ability to do this. So this included things like, again, the dog's food or toy motivation and whether it needed training. So those external factors. That was had the second strongest effect on owner behaviour. And then next was social norms, so the social opportunity. And people who did have the social opportunity to use reward-based methods considered it normal to carry food rewards with them when out walking their dog. They considered it normal to have used a dog trainer. They also considered it normal to share advice with other dog owners about how they could train their dog. Interestingly, on the flip side to this, owners who used aversive methods actually considered it socially normal to do that, so they perceived that others around them do this as well. And finally, the fourth most important factor which influenced behaviour was their knowledge, so their psychological capability. So guardians that did have the psychological capability, they actually knew the purpose of rewards. They knew the purpose of using a clicker. They knew that rewards could be phased out over time, those sorts of things. They also identified that it was a myth. They knew that it was a myth that they had to assert dominance over their dog, whereas owners who use aversive methods thought it was true. They thought they did have to do that. They thought it was an important thing that a guardian should do for their dog. This is also interesting because you can see that knowledge is not, even though it does have an impact on behaviour, it doesn't have a strong effect compared to the other factors on this list. I think this is interesting because knowledge is frequently identified as one of the ways that we can change owner behaviour. I think this just highlights the value of using the COM-B model to ensure a broad range of factors and allow us to prioritise these. So you'll note that motivation didn't actually have a strong effect on the owner's behaviour. This is interesting as well because many studies in the field of dog welfare who investigate owner perceptions focus a lot on this motivation aspect. So this is interesting, and I think again it just highlights another reason why this COM-B model is valuable in allowing us to ensure that our behaviour change interventions are based on evidence to ensure that they're effective. So, in conclusion, the strategies or interventions which will have the strongest effect on changing owner behaviour and most likely to be successful are ones that target improving owners' skill at using reward-based methods. This study highlighted the value of using the COM-B model to understand owner behaviour to ensure that to allow us to get a broad view of factors and prioritise these factors. And it also demonstrated the value of using an evidence-based framework to guide intervention design to ensure that we can prioritise and use resources efficiently. So what do we need to do next? We need to do more research. Surveys just kind of scratch the tip of the iceberg on the evidence there. So we need to do more research, focus groups, interviews. We need to practically assess owners' skill at using reward-based methods. So if there's anything I want you to take home today, researchers, consider using the COM-B model when you're designing your research right through to when you present your results. And this will allow intervention designers, which may be animal welfare organisations or anyone really who's aiming to change owner behaviour, it will allow them to easily access this evidence and implement it into their behaviour change interventions to ensure effectiveness. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jodie. That was great. Any questions? Right, our chair.
Jodie, when you were doing the research, did you differentiate between training with large dogs or with small dogs?
No. Unfortunately, wasn't able to gather that much. There were so many questions I wanted to ask on an online survey, but very limited.
It's interesting at Dogs New Zealand we have a program of training, puppy training courses for dogs under 1 year, and then we have a Canine Good Citizen program for dogs over 12 months. And there's a massive drop-off between training with small dogs, toy dogs, between the puppy training to going through on Canine Good Citizen. I've got a toy dog and we're doing Canine Good Citizen. I'm the only one in our group with a toy dog. And when I look around all the other training things, the same pattern. So there seems to be an expectation amongst the guardians that if I've got a small dog, puppy training's good enough. And yet when you go out with dogs in the public, the worst behaved dogs
Stop it.
Vicious chihuahuas and things like that. There doesn't seem to be a realisation that continuing training with small dogs actually is good for the dog and good for the owner.
So you're suggesting that could be the physical opportunity, the external factor influencing the owner, could be due to the size of the dog?
Yeah, because they think they can solve the problem by just picking it up.
Yeah, I think we've all seen that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jodie. Do you have any thoughts on why motivation didn't have such a strong effect?
Good question. I think generally it could be because generally companion animal owners, dog owners, do tend to have positive attitudes and perceptions and beliefs about their dog. There's lots of research out there already which suggests that is the case, and Companion Animals New Zealand in your survey of dog owners a few years back found that people did obtain their dogs for positive reasons, for companionship and love. So I think it just identifies that there is maybe an attitude behaviour gap there. And I think by targeting those capability and opportunity aspects of the owner's behaviour, we could give them the tools to behave in the way that they want to behave and the way they're motivated to behave.
Cool, thanks.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you so much, Jodie. Thank you.